Welcome to Newsroom, brought to you by Insurance Brokers Alliance. The place, of course, where we discuss everything going on around New Zealand and the world from the perspective of our panel, which tonight consists of local lawyer Mary Jane Thomas.
Kia ora.
Welcome back, Mary Jane. And Stephen O'Connor, our financial expert on the panel tonight.
How are you, Bill?
Nice to have you here. Of course, we're going to be talking a lot about politics tonight. How could we avoid talking about politics? We hope we take it a bit more seriously and talk about some more serious matters than some we've seen in the news. Like, for example, people worrying about Winston Peters making quips, Mary Jane. It seems to be hitting the headlines. Winston's joke taking up a lot of news space. Is this trivia or is it really serious?
I think it's really sad. Who cares? Yeah. I mean, he always does it, doesn't he, about this time? He awakes from his great slumber and decides to do the racial we are all getting taken over by the Asians line. But I mean, too long, was it? Am I repeating it being offensive? But I mean, who cares? So. Yeah. It's ridiculous. I mean, I wouldn't have even, it didn't even note a mention in my view.
What do you think, Stephen?
And I think probably it came to the fore because Susan Devoy, had to come out and say something against it because the previous week she'd come out against Jamie White.
Oh yes.
So she couldn't be seen to be attacking one party and not attacking the other, or correcting one party and not correcting the other.
But
and that's
what White said was racist, wasn't it? I mean, what Winston said was just stupid. Isn't there a difference?
Well, I don't think what Jamie White said was racist, actually, because if you actually read the speech...
Remind the viewers what he said.
What was reported that he said and what he actually said are two different things. See, they pick up little sound bites out of the speech and then just put that out there.
Yes.
Whereas if you actually go and read the speech, what he said was...
What did he say?
What he said was
Sorry, Bill, but this is interesting. Yes, what did he say?
What he said was quite factual in that he said that there was privilege in New Zealand for Maori. He highlighted the Maori seats. He highlighted the fact that Maori have access to tertiary education at lower qualification levels than other New Zealanders, and things like that, which are factual. And that
privilege. Come down to the court. Oh, gosh, that annoys me. What he was trying to say is that, that Maori have privilege. Anybody that lives in my world can come down to the Invercargill District Court and have a look and see how privileged socio-economically wise the Maori are.
No, he wasn't arguing that at all.
What was he? But he was saying that they were privileged. We are giving Maori something that they don't deserve.
That was what was put in the media.
But that's what he was inferring.
No, it wasn't at all.
Well, what was he inferring? It's good that the Maori have these step-ups or hand-ups? Is that what he was saying? He was saying this is good?
No, he's saying that everybody should be treated as...
So he was saying it's a bad thing?
Yes.
Yes, well see that's right. I mean that's where I really draw a distinction with it. If he wants to truly see where the Maori are in our society, tell him to get off his high white middle class rich horse and come down to reality, and he'll find that in fact the Maori do need a hand because they are struggling, in my view, significally.
Well, no one's arguing with that. I mean, they're overrepresented in the wrong places.
But why would he possibly think then, why would any politician then say it was a bad thing to try to help them?
He wasn't saying that.
I thought you said he was.
No, I didn't say that. He was saying that there should be one law for everybody.
Well, so he's saying, okay. Well, to me, he's saying that it is wrong to give assistance to Maori.
No,
he's saying that there are, if they want assistance, then there's assistance available. I mean,
which clearly isn't working because...
Which could be across the board, is that what he was saying?
Yes.
There should be assistance across the board for anybody.
So why should somebody who's underprivileged and Maori get access to something, but somebody who's of another race but underprivileged not get access to it?
Okay. So that'll be a fundamental difference between what some people think and what other people think.
But I think what was reported was completely off base.
I think that anybody suggesting using the word privilege, was it the word privilege?
That's what was in the media. He said legal privilege comparable to that of the French aristocracy. Reported in the media.
Did he not say that?
He did say that.
Well, how on earth?
But you had to take it in context.
Yeah, but in context, how could you possibly say sensibly that Maori had a legal privilege in the same terms as the French aristocracy had.
Perhaps he went slightly overboard there, but the crux of the speech was fundamentally factual.
Interestingly, that's the first thing that ACT, I think, has been in the media for this election. I don't know whether they wanted to be that or not. And then the other thing we've had is videos, haven't we? I mean, there was the video of the burning of the effigy of John Key, which I actually thought it wasn't unreasonable that he associated it with Internet Mana, and given the context and given the circumstances, and he later said, well, no, it wasn't, I made a mistake. And then it was reported, of course, that Internet Mana were sort of going to go after him in the courts. But fortunately, Laila Hare came out and said, we're not after any legal redress here. We just want TV1, I think it was, to apologise for doing this and associating it with us. But, I mean, again, is it a storm in a teacup?
I just refuse. I refuse to listen to what Winston Peters says anyway, because he annoys me so much. And I've decided the Internet Party is so irrelevant that I just refuse to even comment on them as well.
So you weren't at their meeting the other night in Invercargill?
Oh yes, I went to show up. I did. Yeah.
Oh right.
Were you?
No, I can't say I was. No, I had another engagement.
I actually missed that as well. But apparently it was a fairly quiet affair. So interesting.
Couldn't rack the troops up in Invercargill.
No, there wasn't any stone throwing or anything.
Well, the old people are all going for Winston, aren't they? So who's he going to go for? The young ones. But I think the young ones are so disinterested that they probably wouldn't go anyway, would they?
Some have suggested.
Who does vote for who on earth would vote for Kim.com? I find it extraordinary.
I think there are people who would.
Like what demographic?
I think there are people who would. I think you put your finger on it. It's the young ones. Well, the last election, we saw them abandon the election, more or less. I mean, very few of them came out to vote.
I can understand not voting. I'm thinking of not voting this year as well. So I understand disinterest. But who would... I just struggle to think. Who would go and say, oh, I'm going to vote for Kim.com?
Young people.
And
I think they would, because they call themselves the Internet Party. It's a very fashionable name.
But young people can't be that stupid, can they?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure that it's just young people. It's probably people that are anarchists, people that are looking to overthrow, revolutionary. That's what he's trying to appeal to. The radicals. And there are people in society that he would appeal to. There's not very many people.
He's got one or two issues. One or two that people are concerned about, like just spying on us by the US government. He says, that's the first thing will stop. Those agreements will stop. So, and we don't know. I mean, we haven't been told what we're being spied on for, or when it's happening, and all this kind of stuff.
I'm sure they're listening to us here.
Here either. I'd love to have a life interesting enough. I would love to have a life interesting enough for somebody to spy on me. Wouldn't it? Don't you think it'd be neat?
Mary Jane.
I know, truly, I think it'd be neat if somehow somebody wanted to tap into my phone.
And listen to what you were saying.
Die of blooming boredom.
Well, I think that'll be the case with most people, or most of us. But I don't like the idea of being spied upon. It's not so much by governments; it's by government officials who, in the United States of America, are largely out of control of Congress. I mean, they were even spying on their own Congress. They've got an arrogant idea of their own importance.
But do we not have more concerns in this country, truly, than whether or not some over-exuberant dip in America wants to listen in to our cell phone calls? I mean, I'm appreciating that to some people it's important, but do we not have more pressing issues? Perhaps we don't.
Yes, well, Labor thinks one pressing issue is that people over 65 years old should get free doctor's visits. What do you reckon about that, Stephen? I mean, is this a real need in our community, a need where we need to commit $280 million to it? I've absolutely no doubt there are some retired and elderly people who are not going to the doctor because they can't afford it, and I believe we ought to address that. But across the board?
No, I don't agree with that. I think that's poor targeted use of money.
Well, it's not targeted, is it?
Yeah, well, it's not targeted at all. I agree with the under-13s policy, which I think all parties are backing that one now.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we have the community services card. If people qualify for that, then they should get access to medical care at a reasonable cost. If they are really desperate and can't afford to go to the doctor, there's always the fallback to the hospital. I mean, they don't want people going down there, but there's always that fallback if they are that desperate. I don't think it's a good policy.
Is it going to get votes? Do you reckon, Mary Jane, is it going to mean that some retired people who may have been going to vote for another party are going to say, well, I like this so much, I'm going to vote for Labor? Is they going to turn their heads?
Well, it depends on whether people vote on an altruistic value, or whether it's for themselves. Of course, if some people want to get free, it seems to me a lot of people want free stuff, don't they? So of course they might. I don't know. But I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me. It's not means tested, is it?
No.
So rich old people go to the doctor free. Why should I pay out of my taxes for rich old people
that was my
going
thought.
to the doctor?
Yeah.
For every time they get a sniffle on that, it really annoys me. So you're going to have these rich old people going to the doctor and I'm paying for it. And why should rich people or anybody, why should my kids get a free visit anyway? I can pay for my own kids to go to the doctor. Yeah, I mean, it's just more handout stuff.
Yeah.
We are taking, it annoys, and we can't afford it anyway.
I mean, is it too difficult for any government to sort out who really needs these things and who don't? You know, who doesn't?
It's really, well, it doesn't get votes though, does it? Because the great white middle classes will go, oh, we'll get the free stuff.
So it's not about looking after people.
See,
it's about
I would
votes.
do it if they're really worried about it. Why don't they do this? Why don't they set up a centre in any town and have it free, means tested. So if you're on the bones of your backside and honestly cannot afford to go to the doctor, you can go to the centre at any stage and get free medical advice. I wouldn't have an issue with that if it was means tested, because children should go to the doctor if they need to go to, but do it that way. Have it,
they wouldn't have to means test everybody. I mean, you could say if you're on the DPB, you automatically go free. They could do that.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with that. But I mean, no, do not give.
Well, isn't that the way the community services card works now?
Well, I don't know that it does work, to be honest with you. I don't know that. I don't think it is completely free, and there are some medical practices don't take it.
No, it's not completely free.
No, it's not completely free.
Subsidised.
Yeah, it is. It's subsidised, and some medical practices say, look, we don't want to have anything to do with it.
Let's face it, they won't get in, and we won't get it anyway. And the country can't afford it. So let's just, it's not going to happen.
What are you saying that Nationals are shoo-in?
I don't think Labor's got any hope in living heck. Yes, I do.
I wouldn't be quite so confident.
Do you reckon that there could be a
because of the stupid system we've got, and if we want to go down that track, I mean, I'm a bit of an idealist when it comes to politics, and I would actually like to see a system where we voted for our representatives in Parliament, and then they all work together for the betterment of New Zealand.
Well, that's dumb because they don't.
No, we haven't got that system, and I'd like to see the party system banned, because I just think...
You want to go back to first past the post. Well, it's not going to happen.
No, I want to get rid of parties. I want to get rid of parties. So we vote in our representatives.
Make it like the Invercargill City Council.
Well, that works, doesn't it? Well, gee, let's go to local politics.
But you'd have to increase the salaries or the incomes that you paid our politicians to make it worthwhile.
Yeah. But it doesn't work like that. People do not work individually and go into groups for the benefit of idealism or what's best for the people that voted in. People get into groups with the hope that they all band together and get power.
Yeah.
I mean, people don't work that way.
That's what he doesn't like. That's what he wants to stop.
But but people don't have the backbone nor the intellect.
I'm an idealist.
Well, yeah, I know, but I mean, idealism doesn't work in democracy.
The real world.
No, it doesn't. No. So that was stupid. Yeah, sorry.
Well, Mary Jane, you think there's not going to be a left-wing government? A coalition was the word I was looking for before. But
who are they going to coalesce with?
Let me.
Obviously, Greens and Labor and.
Well, Greens and Labor will go together. There's no doubt about that. But I mean, and Cunliffe is going to hook up with.
Here's the latest from I Predict.
Right.
Oh, good.
They're predicting 45% for National, or 44%. So therefore, they're going to have to find some partners, and it looks like it'll come down to Winston. Winston will hold the balance of power.
See, it just upsets me so much.
And whichever way he flips,
he'll become
potentially
to use the old phrase, the kingmaker,
lead the next government.
Yeah. How interesting.
Yeah.
How interesting. Now, what is that based on?
That's that I Predict. The Victoria University.
Oh yes.
They've got 7,000 people.
So
registered.
should I vote? In other words,
you probably should. Mary
If you're concerned about Winston holding the balance of power,
I should vote. That is, I should not. Even though I don't particularly like National, but I should vote for National if I can't stand the thought of a Cunliffe and Mana and
Green
Winston coalition.
I don't think Cunliffe is going to go with Mana. I think I heard that they said we're not having any of that internet party.
They'll go with anybody that can get them into power. Cunliffe will get... These people, and it's the same with Key, they don't have any principles. When it comes to getting into power, they will go with anybody, let's be honest about it.
Well, that's the system. That's what they're driven to. They can't lead a government unless they coalesce with somebody.
So, right.
Interestingly, the Greens are saying they are somebody who's put some very solid policy on the table. They want to spend $500 million on Christchurch transport. So if they were part of a coalition, they might insist on something like this. Looking at it, I can't say that I'm against it. It's $500 million, $500 million, but what they're saying seems to make a heck of a lot of sense. And basically what's been done in big cities around the world. I mean,
No, they need to bowl Christchurch over completely and move it a couple of hundred.
That's just about happened.
Well, they need to move Christchurch 100 kilometres somewhere else.
But they have got railways in place there, Mary Jane. I mean, they've already got railways.
Why sink more money into something that is clearly never going to be fixed?
But surely if it was that unstable, they wouldn't be rebuilding where they are.
Well, why not? Of course they will.
They're doing it, so now they have to service it.
Do you really have any great faith that somebody's actually made that decision?
Well, I think that, I mean, the possibility of a major earthquake again is obviously quite, likely. Well, not likely, but you can't rule it out.
It's sinking in.
But I think
it's the flooding in that. The whole place needs to be picked up and relocated, in my view.
But they're not going to do it. I mean,
so why sink $500 million in?
They're not going to rebuild in the red zone, but they're going to rebuild in those zones which are okay. Yeah. And so they reckon they're going to start it off with $250 million for the existing railways. But it actually supports some of what you're saying, Mary Jane, because what they're saying is Rangiora, which is on good solid ground,
they're going to hook it out to there.
It's growing, so why not, instead of having people spending millions of dollars on motorways and motor vehicles and jamming up, get a really good train service going like, Chicago or many of the big cities around the world.
I would support, that sounds sensible to me, if they are going to move out of those zones that are sinking.
And Rolliston's another one. They're saying we've already got the line there, so let's use the jolly thing.
That is sensible.
Because the CBD fundamentally wasn't, there was no, what's it called, the liquefaction.
Yeah.
But it was the buildings, and so that as long as they build to a certain code or certain standard, then even in another major quake, the extent of damage will not be the same. But they're certainly not rebuilding in the areas where there was liquefaction, the red zone areas. So I fundamentally quite agree with the green policy, although they're saying don't sell the assets of the Christchurch City Council. Well, why not? Why should the Christchurch City Council own Christchurch Airport? Auckland City Council doesn't own Auckland Airport. Wellington City Council doesn't own Wellington Airport. We own ours, but
because
nobody else wants it.
And we're redoing it, did you see?
Yeah.
We moved our...
So why should Christchurch City Council own Christchurch Airport? Why can't they sell it to fund some of their
Part of what the Greens
rebuild?
are saying is, and I think I probably agree with this too, is they're saying, let's put ECANs back in the hands of the people, so have an election for the regional council, that's Environment Canterbury, and Sarah should really be handing their power back to the local authority now. I think I agree with that. What do you think, Mary Jane? Sarah've got a tremendous amount of power.
No, I don't. I just don't think local government works. I don't have any faith at all in local.
You'd feel extremely depressed about Auckland then, with their huge council.
I just have no faith that people vote people and that have got a clue.
Right.
Honestly, I just find the whole thing really depressing. I'm sorry, I don't want to be awful about it, but
before Mary Jane completely melts down and into a fit of depression, something terrible happens. We're going to go for a break. We'll be back shortly. We'll see you soon. Welcome back to Newsroom. Well, we've just been talking about a bit of politics and the Green Party. Stephen, we cut you off for a break. You had something else to say about the Greens?
I was just going to say one of the other things they said was that they were going to fund the or part of their policy through not rebuilding the outdoor stadium.
Yes.
Which, okay, but good luck because they're not going to have any major sporting fixtures or tests there until they get themselves a decent stadium. So. I don't know whether that would be popular with the people of Canterbury.
No, it certainly would not, particularly with the Canterbury rugby team being, as they have always been, an extremely strong side, being a Cantabrian myself of many years back. And remembering the time that Canterbury beat the All Blacks, I think they need a decent stadium there. And eventually they're just going to have one, aren't they? I mean, you can't have a city that size without a decent stadium.
No.
Yeah.
They can't afford a decent stadium. See, this is what annoys me about you rugby
Yeah, they
heads.
can.
They've got
That's why they need to sell Christchurch
city
Airport.
is in rubble, and you're saying, oh, by the way, we need to build a stadium. People are not going to watch live sport anymore. Believe me, I know that. I watch it on TV. It's like that terrible big sucking chest wound in Dunedin. Honestly, the last thing they should worry about is building a stadium.
You're not going to support the Stags on Friday night?
Where? At the start?
At Rugby Park.
What? I didn't say that. What I said was that the Otago Stadium is a great sucking chest wound.
Right.
And I'll stand by that.
On the basis...
You can actually go and watch rugby on the sideline. What an interesting concept. So you'd be a corporate box man, aren't you?
No.
You are?
No.
You sit up there
You're
with
in
a
the
corporate
stands?
box. You're not.
I'll be in the stand on Friday night.
You'll be in the corporate box.
I'll
I'll be
all
on the
those-
stand.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I'm a season ticket holder. Got 4 seasons tickets.
Oh, sorry. People like you that are corporate box people. Believe me, you are able to go and watch sport.
We just gave up our corporate box.
sitting in the stands or wandering up as I want to do with a cigarette before they banned smoking, watching the rugby. You don't actually need to have these great blinking stadium. The only people that go to stadiums are the kind of like, you know, oh, look at me. We've paid $1,000 for our box and we drink a lot. You can actually watch sport and enjoy sport without huge stadiums.
Well, a lot of people do that by going and standing on the embankment, Mary Jane.
Well, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's very cool sometimes, yeah.
Well, it might, yeah, but I just don't. Okay, right. Yeah. I'm sorry, you're a season's ticket holder.
Yep.
I apologise.
A strong supporter.
We gave up our corporate
we need
box.
more. Which is why he bought a season ticket to stand, probably.
Don't get me wrong, I do like the odd corporate box, but what I'm saying, we are capable of watching rugby not being in one. Yeah.
Diversifying slightly from rugby to playgrounds. We had this really unfortunate event up north, Mary Jane, where a couple of boys fighting the playground. The older boy comes along, the Stephen Dudley case we're talking about here, hooks into the fight, but doesn't stop at hauling the two boys apart and saying cut it out, but joins his brother basically what appears to have been a pretty vicious attack on the third boy. In the court, Justice Winkleman has labelled this as just a schoolboy fight and let the boys off and let them go. As a teacher, I find that disturbing. How do you find it as a lawyer?
I've got to be careful. Justice Winkleman certainly determined that the consequences of a conviction were sufficiently outweighed the seriousness of the offending. And I just want to say, for a starting, I've read the decision. Yeah. The Crown actually didn't agree with this. So the starting point is it was a contested outcome. Do you know what I mean? So the Crown were opposed to there being a discharge without conviction. I can see why the parents are upset. I've read the decision, like I said, it appears to be that it wasn't, that this boy involved himself in a fight. His younger brother was fighting, he went in, he belted this child that died, and then the two of them got involved in fighting the boy that died. Now, I want to make it clear, the law says that in these circumstances, he was never going to be guilty of manslaughter. Right. That's just the way it is. I think what is upsetting people is that it appears that this young man got off, a
severe case of assault. Nothing. Would it be assault? That sort of thing.
What the Crown laid was assault with intent to injure. So yes, So I understand why people are upset.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And at the very least, Stephen, it seems to be a severe case of bullying, isn't it? What would you think as a parent and as a...
Well, you can clearly understand why the parents are upset and why the father had that outburst in court. I don't blame him, actually. Probably would have done the same. I think it sends a couple of wrong messages in that, and you raised it earlier on, Bill, about school violence in school playgrounds. It shouldn't be stood for. And okay, this was after hours, after school, but it still doesn't matter. And the judge clearly decided, in her wisdom, that, well, actually this quote here sort of sums it up, that she said that you have lived and will live your life in the knowledge of your role in the events that ended with Stephen's death, and I'm satisfied that you do feel the weight of that. So she felt that that was sufficient punishment for him. But, you know,
and she had to make a call. I mean, that's her job. That's what she's paid for, isn't she?
Yep.
Yeah, she had to make that call.
You can clearly understand why the parents are upset.
If they wanted to take, you know, if they're upset enough to take this further, Mary Jane, have they got any recourse?
Well, it's not them take it further. I think this is a starting point. It's the Crown. We live in the system is that the Crown could appeal the decision to the Court of Appeal,
right,
but it would be on very narrow grounds, and that would be that the judge had made an error of law.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? So you just can't say, the Crown just can't say we don't agree with Justice Winkleman.
Yeah,
we
okay,
could,
right.
no, you'd have to say that she erred in the law. And I think from looking at the decision, I think that the Crown might struggle on that. Do you know what I mean? Because the judge had it all in front of her. She just, I mean, what the Crown had said, that it was an unprovoked and unexpected attack. They said he was older and larger than the boy that died. He joined in attacking the dead boy with his brother. So the Crown, the Crown, I read it, and the Crown had a guy called Raftery on it, who's the most senior. Like the Crown went in, like I said, with their most senior man.
Yeah.
So, and they opposed the application for discharge. But I'm not sure that the Crown could appeal it.
Okay.
Because like you've really got to show the judge got the law wrong, and I don't think she did. I think she just decided on the law. So it's just a really sad example.
Extremely sad.
But I don't agree with her that it was an example in our, like I'm on a board of trustees, and I don't think that our principal would stand for that for a moment.
That's the part, that's
one-on-one
I most disagreed with.
One-on-one boys are right. Look, I don't care really. If they're going to...
A bit of a bloody nose.
I went to the under-14s the other day, rugby. It was Verdon against... Boys High. And honestly, what goes on the field, it's basically legalised assault. Everybody's yelling there and they're tackling, and you know. So there's a level at which you think boys, and I don't have any problem with two boys after rugby practice having a bit of biffo. Yeah. But what was different here, I think, and this is one thing I teach my sons, 2-on-1 is not acceptable. Do you know what I mean? There's certain rules. Did you ever, we were taught that by my father, hi dad, he'd be one of our, you know, you don't kick a man on the ground.
No.
You know, you don't use a bottle or something, and you sure as heck don't do 2-on-1. You know, like, there's certain rules of engagement. Yeah. And I think because as soon as you kick them on the ground, you risk injury. As soon as 2-on-1, you risk injury. You know, nobody minds a 1-on-1 fight with boys.
What happens?
You know, I mean, of course it is, like I said, but that's my understanding is that's not what happened in this case.
Well, it certainly hasn't left everybody happy, has it? I mean, there's a lot of disgruntled people around, and but she made a call, she did it, and she gave her reasons, and you can understand her reasons, but at the end of the day, the sadness was there no matter what the judge's decision was. The
problem is in cases like this, and I've prosecuted a lot of murders and manslaughters and cases, the problem is when somebody dies, you can't, there's nothing that anybody could do to make it better. Right. Do you know what I mean? Like it's awful. Like often you'll do a murder case and you'll hear a verdict of guilty and you feel relieved, but somebody's still dead. Do you know what I mean? So the problem is it's the tragedy of this poor kid dying and the parents would just be devastated, but I'm not sure that whatever you did to this offender would have made much difference.
It's a tragedy all around. And of course, whilst we're talking about tragedies, everybody's heard in the news lately, of course, the death of Robin Williams, one of the world's finest actors. Just seems such a waste, Stephen.
Absolutely.
The guy, I mean, contributed so much, made so many people laugh, and I don't think there's a person who would have wanted him to end up this way. I mean, it almost seems like he needed some reward for all the joy that he's caused people. And yet it seems like that he was a very sick man and a depressed man, and
well, he was clearly a very troubled person, very sad and lonely to come to a decision that he came to. I mean, no one takes their life for no reason, do they?
Yeah. But his legacy, you know, in the movie industry is going to stand. I mean, he's left certainly some fine films behind, and it'll probably be an act that won't be repeated. I'm referring to, you know, his acting career, very diversified, incredibly spontaneous. I think one of his first big ones was Good Morning Vietnam, which will ring through through history for a very long time. Followed up by incredible stuff like Mrs. Doubtfire. What else did he do that was? Oh, there's just so many, really.
Walk and Mindy, Good Will Hunting.
Yeah,
those ones.
Just
Peter Pan.
An amazingly talented man.
But what people need to realise that the depression is a real issue, and people need to understand that people get so unwell and in such a dark place at this result. So I think it's a really good wake-up call to people to remember that there will be people in our lives that are in that position, that even though they look like they're on top of the world and they've got all the money in the world, because I mean, you'd look at them and think, what more could you want? Everybody loves you, and I think it's a really good lesson that when people are suffering from depression, it's not about how much money they've got or whether they've got people that love them or whatever, it's an illness. And I think it's a really good wake-up reminder, you know, it's a good reminder to us all that it's a real relevant illness in society, and we just need to, I suppose, keep an eye on people that we love.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. Good place to leave it. Yeah, take the lesson out of it. We've had a visit from Mr. Bainimarama, who's come to town and to drum up some support for his election in Fiji. And he has been well received by some, but not so well received by the others. He's been reigning, shall we say, or ruling in Fiji since 2006, so that's 8 years. Does this signal a return to democracy in Fiji? Are we going to see everything return back to normal? Or do we have lesser hopes for the future of the country? Certainly a constitution which was drawn up with the aid of New Zealand and several very well respected people, internationals, who drew a constitution up, was thrown out by those in power in Fiji, and one was substituted in its place which exonerated or protected from prosecution all those who had, it seems, who had participated in coups, army people and government people, etc., etc. That's the constitution they have in place. Mr. Bainimarama has been here, as I said, drumming up support. At the end of the day, after this election's over, are we going to have a country more akin to New Zealand or more akin to Russia, where Putin obviously rules with a rod of iron, and democracy is not really democracy as we know it? What's it going to look like? What do you think?
I think it'll be a lot closer to Russia than it will be to New Zealand. I actually caught him on the news when he was here, and I was interested in the fact that he said, I think there's 51 seats up in this election, and he said that we have to win all of them. We can't afford to have even one seat that would fall to another party.
Right.
Which I thought, okay, that doesn't sound like very democratic to me. I mean...
Yeah, but can I know, this sounds awful and I'm going to get hit for it. We're sitting here in a democratic society where who rules our country is going to be dependent on Winston Peters.
According to Stephen.
Yeah, exactly.
But let's face it, Winston Peters.
Well, that's the reality.
Who every once in a while comes out and makes, and is pitching the demographic to old people. Who are we, right? I don't know, and I don't know enough about Fiji, and I'm really sorry about it, but
that's right.
You know, maybe we should get off our high horses. I understand that Fiji, everybody's upset about it and it's not democracy, but you know, we are going to decide, my fate is decided by Winston Peters. Well, I suppose at least this fella's up front about it, isn't it? He did a coup, he's the boss. I mean, are there human rights violations?
Can you really compare Winston to him, though?
No, I'm not saying, but what I'm saying is, are we, you know, it's all very well going, oh, it's terrible, it's terrible, it's terrible, it's terrible. I don't know if I'd mind this guy. I think I understand. He doesn't like committees. I don't like no, and I know it's anti-democratic, but have you ever tried to do anything by a committee?
He's got the guns to support his
I
opinion
kind of
too.
understand that. I think at the end of the day, in another lifetime, I would be this guy. I just think I'd like to just go, can we just run it my way and do it? Because see, I couldn't stand dealing with people like this guy from the Internet Party and Winston Peters. That actually annoys me more. So I'm sorry, and again, that's why I should never be in politics. At least he's upfront. Like, at least he gets stuff done. Yeah. And I know it's not democratic, but how can it be? How can it be a good thing that, you know, like I said, the Internet Party is somehow going to have an input into, I don't know.
One of my colleagues made the comment to me today that, I mean, basically just terrible, terrible things going on in Iraq now and all around the Middle East. He made the comment, at least when Saddam Hussein was in power, and we're talking about Libya and Egypt as well, when these dictators were in power, they had a modicum of decency.
Well, look what the United Nations did. We got this great democratic idea that the United Nations, the United Nations have sat back in a committee and done nothing. I think there's a lot to be said, and again, I'm willing to accept that this is completely politically incorrect. But I understand somebody saying, well, look, at least I'll get on board and I'll do something. We've sat by in the world and watched all these terrible atrocities take place.
And we're seeing some
because
of the worst
nobody
now.
agrees anything.
Yeah.
Look at Blimmin, and I hate, who's the President of the United States?
Ban Ki-moon.
I know that. Obama. I mean, and they're still sitting back and doing nothing. So,
the United States, I thought meant the United Nations.
No, I mean, no, I know that. I mean, I've never liked. But I mean, so, yeah, like I said, terrible Fiji, it's not a democracy. It's terrible, it's not a democracy, etc., etc. But, I don't know.
But you're quite right, Bill.
I kind of get it.
At least there's no one getting lined up against the wall and shot, or people, just getting women and children.
He didn't like it because the Fijian indigenous population thought that they were getting ripped off by the Indians, right? And I understand that's wrong, but I kind of get where they're coming from.
Oh, he's equalised everybody out. He's equalised everybody out.
And I'm not sticking up for him, but like I said, I don't. I think there's worse. I think there's worse people in the world than
I spoke to a few Fijians who came out of that situation. They're Fijian Indians who've said, and actually these were very intelligent people who said, actually, what he's done is, he said, I sort of agree with it. I don't agree with the way he did it. They said it needed to be done because, in his opinion, the Fijians were taking power for themselves and muscling the Indians out, and they said, well, we're all equal citizens of the country. And Bainimarama came in, stamped on that and said, I'm in charge now, everybody's going to be equal whether they like it or not, And so that's why this guy said, he thought, well, he's evened everybody out, but the use of the gun is not really the right way to do it. And they got a lot of guns in Fiji.
What did they do? Don't know. But.
And you're right, Mary Jane, we're judging their situation on our standards. And if they want to run their country some way different, then so be it.
Yeah, I tend to think sometimes, because I don't think we do that well here. And I'm certainly not prepared to accept that America and all these democracies can be held up being that much better either way. Like, you go on about a democracy like in America, they have terrible poverty.
Yeah.
They have terrible things that occur.
I wouldn't actually call America a democracy.
But you know what I'm saying? We go on, and look at England.
Yeah.
England,
well, what would you call America then?
America, I mean, the laws in America are largely established by who's got the most money to lobby Congress.
Well, there's no question about that, is there?
And so, the man on the street, we are far more democratic than they are. And you get large companies are getting their will, basically, and imposing their will on the people.
It's the lobbyists, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the lobbyists. I mean, for every congressman, there's 6 lobbyists, and they're paid enormous money. It's just money.
Not suggesting that communism or dictatorships is the way to go, but I don't think that we should smugly sort of say that democracy is necessarily the way to go either, because I think it falls over in a number of respects.
We haven't made it work quite so well. Who was it who said that out of all the systems of government, the one we have is probably the best of a bad lot?
Yeah, I think
was it Winston Churchill? I'm glad to see that the United States, and I'm very rarely glad to see airstrikes anywhere, because they always end up in somebody getting hurt. But something had to be done in Iraq with this ISIS lot. I mean, it made my hair stand on end to hear some of the things that were going on there. And they started it, so now they've got to get in there and finish it. because they removed any control that was there. And someone made the comment to me that these atrocities are making the atrocities of Hitler and the Second World War look like baby stuff, and I tend to agree. I think that that's not before time. It's not before time that something's happened. Children being brainwashed and children being incited to violence and whatnot is completely unacceptable. But my concern is that with this stuff going on, that we become immune to it. We read it in the news and we go on with our lives and think, oh well, somebody will do something. We just become immunised. I mean, we've discussed this before. There's so much of it. But and I think it's something we've got to avoid. But on that note, we'll go to a break. When we come back, we're going to have topics of interest. So stick with us. Welcome back to Newsroom. Just before we go to our topics of interest, let's talk about the Planet Key video, which we can't broadcast, neither can anybody else because it's been banned by the Electoral Commission. The links seem to be fairly freely available, Stephen. I clicked onto it and there it was. It was a masterpiece. I'm very sorry it's not going to be broadcast. I didn't find it offensive or promoting. It didn't look like it was promoting John Key. It didn't look like it was promoting the other side either, quite frankly. I'm not sure why they banned the thing.
No, well, actually, it's a bit of a piss take, you know, it's on Mr. Key, but yeah, someone's put a lot of work into it, an extremely lot of work into it.
Yeah,
it's quite a masterpiece, really, and it's quite funny. And John, I think Mr. Key has taken it in the spirit that it was produced, and said, yeah.
Yeah, Dean doesn't seem to mind it too much. Have you seen it, Mary Jane?
I looked at it. I thought it was funny, and I can understand if you really were opposed to Key's policies and his, you know, and what he stands for. It was really cutting.
Right.
But I thought it was clever.
Yeah.
I didn't find it offensive. Did you? You know, I thought it was clever. I thought it was one of the cleverer things I've seen. And like I said, it was subtly, or not sometimes less subtly, poking the borax at him. So I didn't have a problem with it at all.
And surely poking the borax at politicians is what we ought to be doing, particularly at this time. I mean, it keeps them honest. Well, makes a bit of fun.
I tell you what, it was better than the video that we saw last week from a certain other party that were inciting certain things to Mr. Key, but yeah.
Yeah, well, of course they deny any connection with that video at all. So.
No, I'm talking about the one that they actually published themselves.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Oh, right, yeah. Okay. So it seems it's available anyway. You can go, anyone who wants to see it can go and find it. It's a jolly good bit of fun, and I think it deserves watching. John Key doesn't seem to be too worried about it. In fact, I think in some respects it gives him, it probably gives him a bit of a boost. I mean, all publicity is good publicity, isn't it? His face certainly appears on it enough times. Now to topics of interest. We'll start with you, Mary Jane.
What happened to Marist in the final of the Galbraith Shield?
They actually made the final of the Galbraith Shield, and they were beaten by a far better team on the day.
Yeah, I didn't go. Was it the first 20 minutes that bad?
No. They had very little ball in the first half, and the ball they got in the second half, Woodlands completely shut them down. They were far superior and on the day, and clearly saved their best game of the season for the final.
It sounds like
Did they stack it at all?
No, not at all.
They didn't even. Pine didn't sort of.
Not at all.
Did Whopper play?
Yes, he did, but he was entitled to play as a member of their club.
What do you feel about that, though?
I have no problem with it whatsoever.
Did he play the whole game?
No, he came on after 20 minutes.
Oh, okay. That was my topic of interest.
Oh, interesting. Oh,
yeah.
good.
I was just interested.
Did you think they were going to win?
Who? Woodlands?
Yeah.
I didn't have an idea. The way the Marist supporters were hyping it up, I thought that it was Marist Day.
Well, it was Marist Day. We still won. We made the final and we had a hell of a time afterwards.
We won because we made the final, and there it goes, you know.
Well, I tell you what, we had a great season. And who won the Division 2 final?
Oh, on account back of points.
Yes, yeah.
You don't count that as a win, do you?
Absolutely.
What?
We've got the shield.
This is how sad it is.
Oh, no.
And that game was Blues and Marist.
Yeah.
And they were tied after 40, tied after 80 minutes, tied after 90 minutes extra time, and they got the shield on countback of the points.
Differential.
Yeah, points differential.
It is a bit disappointing when it happens that way, isn't it? I mean, you like to see something a bit more dramatic, but at the end of the day, on a technical issue, they didn't get it.
It was actually a really good game. I watched that game with Blues. It was a really good game. It was a really good game.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a good game.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Yeah.
You're allowed to have your topic now,
Justice
Stephen.
was done on the day, though.
Oh, Justice done that. Oh, good.
I just had a couple of plugs, really, and the first one goes to the Invercargill Musical Theatre Company for their absolutely outstanding production of Mamma Mia. If you haven't seen it, get there. You've got 3 more days.
Right.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, still on. I don't know whether there's tickets available, but if there is, get in there and get involved because it's absolutely fantastic.
Oh, I've heard tremendous reports.
Yeah, so
tremendous reports.
One plug for them, and have to give a plug for the Stags Friday night. Good luck to Brad, Jamie and the boys for the season. First game Friday night against Bay of Plenty.
And so what do you reckon, how are you rating it? How much chance have we got?
We've got, well, according to Brad, we've got a great chance.
Right.
He reckons he's got the boys exactly where he needs them. A couple of rough pre-season games, which were just sort of lulling people into false.
Who did we play pre-season?
We played Mid-Canterbury and lost, and we played Otago and just lost.
Mid-Canterbury we lost.
Interesting.
Yeah, that was part of their plan, apparently.
Overall, though, for the season, for the Stags, what do you reckon part of their plan to lose? Is the team looking stronger than last year?
I think the team looks as strong and pretty balanced across the paddock. Brad spoke at Marist Prize Giving on Sunday, and he said that one of the things that we struggle with in Southland is the depth of players. But yeah, I think
perhaps because our club rugby.
Because we've only got 7
Because
premier
we've
teams.
only got 7 premier teams and they're stacked highly on one team, and maybe that's if we had a.
I'm not going to go there.
Maybe if we had a better club rugby where we would have more depth coming through, perhaps.
A bit more competition?
Perhaps as our schoolboy rugby, if we had more depth and didn't have one school only that appeared everybody went to, maybe we'd get more depth at schoolboy rugby. I've got a lot of opinions on the lack of depth in Southland rugby. Nobody wants to hear them, but that's good.
You can freely express them here, Mary Jane.
I'm saying what we're doing, we are not having depth because we are not allowing.
I can see your point. I don't follow rugby that strong, but I can see what you're talking about. That to develop the sport, you've got to have, the team's reasonably equal, and you've got to have some good competition there at school level. Yeah. But that is really just a functionality of a smaller town, really, isn't it? In many respects. I mean, it's not.
Well, not necessarily. I don't see why in one town it would necessarily be that there was only one school where rugby players necessarily went to. How is that functionality?
Well, there could be 2 or maybe 3, but I mean, it's not like a bigger town like Dunedin or Christchurch, whereas you're never going to have that issue there, unless we just get our teams to travel more or something. I don't know, but yeah.
Oh, Stephen doesn't want to go there.
It's a tough one. No, I mean, yeah. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
What do you do? Right, I want to talk about Tim's movie in the paper the other day. Look, it's this pie in the sky, for goodness sake. What do you reckon? They're talking $5 million making a movie down here. When I saw Chinese interests Chinese were interested, and with a bit of money, maybe it will go ahead. I mean, we've got some good movie-making crews down here. They've done some good stuff in the past. 2 Little Boys.
Exactly. Well, it's not the first movie to be made down here, is it? I mean, so why can't it happen? Yeah. And unless someone floats it, then it's never, you don't even get the opportunity. But hopefully.
Right. Yeah. Not a silly idea, you think?
Well, it can't be a silly idea. If it comes off, we won't say it's a silly idea.
No. And we've done movies here before. World's Fastest Indian and whatnot from here.
As long as we're not committing too much money to it, like blimmin' Auckland to Invercargill boat races and things like that. And
how much of I blanked that. I tend to blank things that I think I'm going to read that are going to annoy me.
Oh yes.
How many millions of dollars were we going to send out of ratepayers?
Well,
was there a figure?
I actually think that we're looking for...
Well, that wasn't part of it, surely. No, we weren't going to spend any money of our money.
I didn't read any council involvement into it at all.
That's refreshingly different from the other proposals we've had. So we're not going to be spending any ratepayers' money on making movies.
It says here in the local press, Shabelt has gone as far as to suggest plots for an estimated $5 million plus 3D spy thriller.
A 3D spy
A
thriller.
3D spy thriller. And these documents obtained under Local Government Information and Meetings Act showed that, but there's no suggestion of anybody in Southland, like the council, not in this news release anyway, putting any money into it. So.
Well, let's be fair. If somebody wants to come down to Southland and for some unfathomable reason
make a 3D
make
spy
a 3D
thriller.
spy thriller
Yeah.
and bring $5 million into the province, I would
Jolly
be
good idea.
wholeheartedly supportive of that.
Well, I'm for
as
it.
would any other Southlander.
Well, I'm for it
I know,
because
and
I think
it would be small-minded of us to even suggest anything other than full support.
well, it's already been done before on a shoestring budget. You know, say some of these other movies that have been made, and they've been jolly good
Two
movies.
little
So
boys
why
made.
not?
Remind me how much that money
I don't know.
made
I
for
can't
us.
remember. But,
We didn't pay. The ratepayers didn't put any money towards that, though, did we? Either.
They had a grant.
Did
They
we?
had a
I
grant.
think that-
Surely. How much money did we make out of that one? Has that ever come up?
I think we supported it through the promotion of it, and particularly the opening they had here.
How much money
premiere.
did we make out of it, though?
Well, I think it's just the employment and the you know,
okay.
and the off-spin.
Oh, the off-spin of
That
it.
comes, you know, people have come down here, they have to stay somewhere. and
My-
they have to
my feeling
eat
is
somewhere, and
They would.
yeah.
Even if we did have to put a bit of money into it, there's so much been invested in terms of people's time and everything else like that now that it's something we just need to keep going. I mean, it's not as though we're starting from scratch down here on these movies. There's plenty of people in the community who are probably willing to back it well beyond anything they'd be paid for, as I know some of these
Maybe
guys.
we could do it for free, just for the joy of having these people down here.
Tim should ring.
Stop being
Tim
sarcastic,
should
Rita.
ring
I'm not
Nick-
being sarcastic, I agree.
Yeah.
Come down, we'll do it all for nothing because we're so eternally grateful that you would come to our city
Tim should ring Nicky Hager, and he'll come down and star in it.
Well, there you go.
with 3D.
He's a
Perhaps,
spy.
perhaps Nicky Hagar's new book could be the theme for the movie.
I could
Never
write
know.
a screenplay for free.
Well, you
There we
reckon you
go.
could?
I'm sure I could.
It would be exciting.
It would
It would have a bit of everything in it.
Two, perhaps.
And we haven't got much time left, but it is worth mentioning, back to politics for a minute, that another cup of tea has been suggested in Epsom. So this has been in the news. The candidate up there, David Seymour, it seems, is getting the support of the national government. So once again, we'll have one electorate in the country in which the people will have twice the democratic power of any other electorate in the country. I wish it would stop, quite frankly, but however, no government seems to be willing to knock it on the head. Labor did it, and National have been doing it for a while. And so there we have it. Unfortunately, and Stephen, I've got no doubt you would be opposed to this because you want a different form of government altogether.
No, I'm not opposed to that because they're not doing anything wrong.
Well, according to the law, they're not. Morally, they are.
Why?
Well, because if we vote our local candidate in down here, like our national candidate, like we have in the past, then another one gets pushed off the bottom of the list. But if we voted an ACT candidate in here who would just act like a national candidate, and then voted national votes, this is all theoretical, on the list, you know, for the party vote, then we would have our local candidate who would be an ACT candidate, and we would have another candidate that we voted in from our party vote. Our national candidate in the past, Bill English, has pushed somebody else off the bottom of the list. But if our local candidate belongs to another party, who is it?
Isn't that just smart?
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
The law should be changed because one electorate is getting twice the amount of democratic power.
But
Well, that's good.
I don't think so.
Good for
Because
that-
it's Epsom.
It's good for that electorate. If they want to vote like that, that's smart.
It uses the law as it stands. I don't agree with the law.
I say exactly. The answer is a
Never
committee
liked
of
it.
one.
Back to the committee of one.
That's what I say.
Yeah.
If we wanted to vote someone else in down here, like Ria Bond for New Zealand First and Party Vote National, then
We could do that.
let's do it.
Yeah.
Not that I'm saying we should, but
No.
But I mean, that's an option that we all have.
Yeah.
And exactly.
Needs tidying up. That's only my opinion, though. And the committee of one seems to be a popular vote on my left here. So on that happy note, we're going to end the show. Thank you very much to my panel, Stephen O'Connor and Mary Jane Thomas, for being with us today. And we'll look forward to seeing you, well, probably in about, I'm not sure, a fortnight's time it might be. We'll just see how we go. See you later.